Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to have you with us today, and I'm also excited to have my good friend, Dr. Ted Morgan, joining us from Gorham, Maine. And we were just talking about the weather up there. It's been a little crazy, hasn't it?
Yeah, it sure has. Yeah, weird winter.
Yes, I know. So Maine's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. Dr. Morgan and I go way back. I think we met in 1997. Does that sound about right, Ted?
I would have guessed a little earlier, but I'm not good with dates, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, I think it's been like 97, like 20 years or something, so which is amazing.
Yeah.
And you were leading a master's program, and I was a team member in that class, and you were just amazing to me, and you became a mentor, and you are one of the reasons I'm doing this, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but
Well, thank you.
the conversation about getting to your one thing. So I'm here, and I've really appreciated all of the support you've given me over the years. So the reason we're here together today is to talk about this concept of dental savings account. It goes by lots of different names, and this was something that came to me back in 2010. I remember it vividly, and I wrote a document about it right away because of so many changes that started happening with insurance, and several other reasons. But I know you and your partners have been kind of in the foreground of this from the get-go, and so I'd love to just pick your brain. You've actually developed a company about this now called DenVantage, which is amazing, and you're helping other offices, and so many practices are interested in this concept and they need support. So Ted, why don't we just start with explaining to me what this concept of dental savings account or membership program or something like that, what's that about? How do you see it?
Well, the way I see it is maybe a little different than the way I saw it when I first heard about it. When I first heard about it, it was a way for patients to kind of pay a monthly fee to put away money to pay for their dentistry and make it easier, put it on a sort of an in-house payment plan, and it usually involves discounts for the patients. And it almost when I first heard about it, it almost seemed to me like, well, that's a Christmas club for dentistry. And I, being the opposite sort of person that I am, it just kind of, I rejected the idea for a while. And then one of the other partners in the company, who was a good friend of mine for a long time, Dave Peer, he came in. Of course, Dave is always very positive about everything.
Yes, he is.
Right. He started saying he really liked this idea. He'd heard about it. And by the way, one of the sources of when we first heard about it was you and your group, because one of the other partners, I'm sure everybody on the line knows, Kevin Devine, and he's in it too. And so we started discussing it as a mastermind group. That's the origin of our partnership in the company, and still is probably the more important connection that we have with each other. And eventually we just decided, well, let's try this. We'll all try it in our practices, and we'll all work it out in our own way, and then we'll get together as a mastermind and kind of do a SWOT with each of our plans and see what's working and what's not. And then we started adopting each other's best ideas and discarding our bad ones. So today I see this as a core strategy of the practice. It's really a very strong part of the practice, not just something to tack on to hopefully keep some patients loyal who might otherwise leave the practice. It's really something that supports growth and profitability to a much greater degree than I would have thought. So.
Oh, that's absolutely correct, and I'm thrilled to hear you say that. So, how long have you been doing this in your practice?
Well, I think you and I were talking about, well, you said 2010.
Yeah.
And I think we started plans in our practices. I think we decided to do it in 11. Because I remember 2011 was a down year in our part of the country for the dental economy. Anyway, the rest of the economy had already gone down, and we were kind of going along thinking, well, we're not hit too bad. And then 11 came, and it was hitting us, and we said, we got to do something. And I actually sat down with my associate at the time, and I said, should we join a PPO?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing coming from you.
And we said, no, anything but that. We're not going to do it. So let's try something else. And actually, it was that decision between, we'll either start a membership plan, or we'll join a PPO, but we got to do something. And we just kind of launched into it, not knowing what the results would be. And fortunately, I had these great other partners or members of the mastermind group that we worked with each other and got a great result out of it. Yeah,
that's wonderful. So I'm sure there's some strengths and weaknesses to, you mentioned SWOT. I'm sure there are some that you've experienced because you've been doing it for a while now. What are some of the things that you can share with us that are like strengths and weaknesses of doing something like this?
Well, the strengths are, as I said earlier, way beyond my expectation. This is an important key strategy in the practice, and it supports growth. In my practice, I've been through a tremendous growth period in the last few years. And without this membership plan, that couldn't have happened. I'm not going to say that the membership plan caused the growth entirely, but it supported the growth, and it would not have happened without it. So the real strength of it is it immediately it ties the patients into your practice. So it used to be, it would take a long time to win the patient over, and you still have to do all those things. But once they sign on to the plan, they're committed for a full year. And, it used to be they were committed for a full half hour. And you didn't know if they'd be coming back. And then the other thing is once they've made that commitment, people have to justify in their mind what they just did. And so I think it triggers them looking around for, well, what are the good things here that are making me, that justify my purchase? And we find that, we can feel that difference because now with well over 500 patients in the plan, it's a gigantic influence in the practice. Every day we have several members in the practice, and none of these people have to pay anything when they're in for their hygiene. So that's just changes the atmosphere because we're not having to talk about money so often.
Yeah, and then think about admin at checkout. All those hygiene patients coming through and stuff. Yeah.
So I did a quick calculation. If we have 550 patients, which we do, that's about 1,650 times a year that there's no money transaction for a hygiene patient.
Wow.
Because they average about 3 visits a year when you figure in your 2 and your 4 visit patients.
That's right.
Yeah. So I could go on and on and on about strengths.
Of course, yeah.
We'll talk some more about some of those. So the weakness, I think, is a couple of things, and they're things that can be overcome, but one is there's a lot of bookkeeping and accounting. If you try to do this on your own, which we did, just in office and on paper and in the software, it starts to get unwieldy when you get up around 100 patients or so. And there's just a lot of record keeping and that sort of thing and accounting. So if that can be offloaded and automated, that helps to overcome that one. Another one is that it takes a while to convince the team that you actually make more money when you write off more money. It's so counterintuitive, but and dentists don't think that works. I'm including myself, and I was the biggest skeptic of all at the beginning until we started keeping some records and tracking it. But if giving a better price on something doesn't increase sales, then I think we better tell the rest of the world that every retailer in the world that doesn't work what they're doing.
Right.
So,
I love that. Think retail. I think a lot of times in dentistry we don't think retail, and I come from a business background before dentistry, and you have to think that way. You're absolutely right. I love it that you said that about the team, because it's like a paradigm shift for a lot of them.
Yeah, definitely.
And it takes some time. So you got your team on board, which you have an amazing team to begin with.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so...
but they weren't on board immediately, and what we did was I told them that we're going to try this. This is an experiment, and it really was at the time. And they would come and say, "Well, look how much we're writing off," and they would always say it with the assumption that if we weren't doing this, we'd of course be collecting all that money. And I kept saying, "Well, thank you, but those are not real dollars. Those are numbers on paper. There's nothing that says that patient would have paid that much more." So,
yeah.
Eventually, they saw it when we started showing the results overall in the bigger picture, and they could see the difference. They've all bought in, and it's just become part of the conversation with patients.
That's great. You're so right about this with the adjustments. I've had this conversation many times with doctors, and I keep a lot of tracking on teams, as you may know, and I watch those adjustments, and I've watched when they start the program and they get hundreds of people, signed up, and the adjustments are not going up. They think they're giving away the farm. They're not. But their production's going up. Hygiene's been more full in a lot of cases. So, So I get what you're saying. Yep. So how are the patients responding to this?
Well, patients love it. Patients thank us for doing it. Patients feel that don't have insurance. They feel locked out. They feel like they're the ones that are paying for that the insured patients are getting a better rate, and they're it's like the insured patients get a secret fee or something like that, and that they're the ones that don't get anything back, and they're the ones that have to pay the full fee, and and a lot of people's attitude is nobody can afford dentistry if you don't have insurance. I mean, we've had patients come in, every week. I mean, throughout my career practically, that would come in and we'd say, "Well, nice to see you. What brought you in?" And they say, "Well, I just got insurance." Meaning, before then, it just wasn't. They saw it as impossible.
Right.
And when you give them a plan that feels like insurance to them, or at least feels like getting what they're missing from not having insurance, they just latch on to it. So they've received it. The patients received it very well. It's rare if you have a conversation with a patient, if you say, "Well, would you like to hear about how you could get a better fee on that?" And they would say, "No, I'm not interested." They all say they're interested, of course.
Of course they do. I mean, who's going to say no to that? But that I have experienced that as well, that at checkout, especially if they need treatment or something like that, it's a great time to bring it up. So,
who doesn't want to save money, huh?
Yeah, it really. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And we're already, a lot of teams offer, like, if you pay in full, you get this much or whatever. Why not just give them, just eliminate that, which we can talk about more. I know you want to talk about logistics there, but so how did you get to the level of starting a company with this? I mean, because that's a huge step.
Well, again, as a mastermind, we get together in places like we're floating out in the lake that Dave Peer lives on his party barge.
Yeah, right.
we're out there, and there might be a beer on the boat.
Might be a Guinness, huh?
Yeah, and a nice afternoon, and we're sharing results with each other, and we're going, I wonder if we could make this into a product that could be duplicated in other practices, because I think we're all very passionate about the way dentistry is being taken over by corporate chains, and especially the what insurance companies have been doing, just it makes us angry and grumpy. I should say grumpy. Right?
Grumpy. There you go. There's your videos. Grumpy old dentist. Yes.
Yeah. So we really see this as, and not just specifically, our company's not going to take over the world. We're just struggling to get going, but we see this idea, this concept, as something that can have a huge impact in saving, quality, independent, fee-for-service practice versus insurance companies. And we can win against insurance once we get our message out. So.
Oh, that's good news to a lot of people,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, most people feel like a victim about it, and in some cases they are. I mean, it's...
Oh, they are.
We're just at their mercy.
I've talked to so many dentists, and when I hear how much PPO insured patients they have and how big a write-off they're making on their PPOs, like 35% seems to be common.
Yeah.
And I start thinking about that. It makes me angry that they're doing that.
Yeah.
That the insurance companies are doing that. We shouldn't be taking that laying down.
Oh, and we shouldn't. And I do believe, there are more changes coming to insurance that are really going to rock things. So, I'm with you. I see the adjustments because I measure practices all over the country all the time, and I'm seeing anywhere from 20 to 47% adjusted off. That's
47.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're doing, if you have Medicaid, if you have a lot of Medicaid in your practice, it can be up to 47%. And that's it's a great service to offer that for patients, but you take a hit.
Well, yeah. So your 53% has to pay your team and pay your supplies and your rent and your utilities.
Yeah.
And then after you take anything home out of that, which is very doubtful, then Uncle Sam comes calling.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
The average overhead in a dental practice is in the 70% anyway.
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients who are less than that, but the average practice has about 75% insured patients, and 25% who are not, and we're not really reaching people who don't have insurance, and that's what strangles us with the insurance contracts, is because we don't have a good population of patients in our practice that don't have insurance. So I think this is where this comes into play, don't you think, Ted?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the biggest oversights dentists make is thinking that the patient to go after is a patient with the good insurance. And there ain't no such thing as good insurance in my view.
Amen, brother.
The patient to go after is a patient who has no restrictions and rules applied to what they can do or not do, and that's the uninsured patient. they're totally free to do whatever they want to do, that they're motivated to do and can afford to do, and we can attract them and make it affordable. Now, these aren't homeless people that don't have insurance. They're business owners and professionals,
right?
And, people that are in construction and jobs where they're self-employed. Our biggest group of patients that can afford good dentistry and appreciate it. They're often people that want to get things done in one visit, so combining it with sedation is just a huge benefit to the practice, and it's the overlooked. It's half of the population.
Yes.
Of our our general population doesn't have insurance.
Right.
So if you don't like what's happening in the half that does have insurance, then shift over to the ones that don't.
There you go. There you go.
That's what we're looking at.
You're exactly right. So there's an untapped market out there, and that's what gets me so excited about this. So there are lots of plans out there, Ted. I mean, they're popping up. It's a wave now. It's been a wave for the last 2 years or so, where I've seen more and more practices really catching on to this concept. So what makes DenVantage a little bit different, or explain to us what you're offering?
Well, what's out there it could be categorized in two different ways. One category is the plan that you go and buy from somebody else, and that's what DenVantage is, of course. The difference between DenVantage and almost every one of the others is that with DenVantage, it's really your own plan, because you set your own fees and your own benefits or discounts. You structure it individually the way that fits your own market, and most of the others kind of force you into a one-size-fits-all sort of program.
Okay.
Another thing is that not all, but most of them don't have a online registration process for the patient. So with DenVantage, a patient can actually go on and register and put in their payment information. So it takes the admin part of that, the registration process, out of the office, and patients can do it themselves. Or what actually happens most of the time is they do it in the office with the guidance of one of our team, but it's a lot quicker that way than it is the old way on paper. So
got it. That makes sense.
Those are a couple of the things that strike me. Some other things are that we see this is still an active mastermind project, and we're bringing in our member dentists to tell us what's working and what isn't working for them. So it's an ongoing growth process that I doubt is happening in other plans.
Got that.
So I think that could be big. The other category is offices that have done their own plan. On the surface, it's a very simple concept. It's easy to implement in your office without having to buy or pay somebody else. And it can be done so that it works. But as I said earlier, when it really does work and you're really getting a large number of patients into it, it becomes unwieldy and difficult. And the other thing is that we see over and over and over is that people that do their own plan trip over some major mistakes, and they make mistakes, and they're very costly, and they often get abandoned. The idea gets abandoned because of the mistakes make the plan unsuccessful, and unsuccessful equals unprofitable in most cases. And
sure.
We find that our membership plan is one of the greatest profit boosters we've ever seen. It has to be done right, though.
Right.
And just too expensive to do it and make mistakes and lose the opportunities.
What are some of those mistakes that people make? Can you share?
The biggest one that I've seen so many times is a dentist, think that in order for it to be attractive, they have to offer a large discount, and they do a percentage discount, and it's most commonly it's 20%. And as you said, if you have a 70% overhead and you give a 20% discount on everything you do, there ain't much left. That's not going to be a profitable program. You're just giving away 2/3 of the profit.
Right.
And patients don't need that much to make it attractive to them. Uninsured patients respond very well to benefits that are closer to the 10% range. And there's some science or maybe an art in how that benefit is communicated to the patient.
Yes.
Nobody gets excited about a 10% discount. But equal dollars presented more effectively, communicated more effectively, is very attractive to people.
What do you mean by that? Explain that.
Well, if Mrs. Harris, if you were having a crown, would you be interested in a 10% discount on that, or would you rather have $165 saved on that?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, $165 sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's better than a 10% discount, and across the board, that is a big part of communicating it. But there's other reasons to not to do a percentage discount that's just so common.
Oh yeah.
Your benefit in the plan should be independent of your fee structure. In other words, if you have a percentage discount, every time your fees go up, your discount goes up. If your benefit is not tied to your fees and as a percentage, but as a dollar amount, your fees are free to go wherever they want to go, and your benefits or discounts, I'm not saying you'd never raise them, but you don't have to. If you find that conditions require you to raise a fee and not raise the benefit, that's fine.
Okay.
And you're still fulfilling your promises to the patient.
Right.
Which is,
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, what were we talking about? Differences between DenVantage and other plans, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other differences you want to recognize?
I think, the difference between DenVantage and a do-it-yourself plan is to be tied into a network of other dentists, which we see the future of this. We're on the brink of reaching out to businesses to say, stop being ripped off by the insurance industry. They are absolutely getting ripped off by the insurance industry. And then they turn around after ripping off the businesses and rip off the dentist.
Yes.
So wonder where those skyscrapers are coming from. How are they funding those? I think we know the answer.
Yeah.
So once we can get the message across to business that this, you can give your employees a dental benefit for a fraction of the cost of what you're paying for insurance, and have happier employees in the process. We think that it'll have a big impact, and being part of a network of dentists, it's and actively promoting the DenVantage, the product to business, will be a huge benefit to dental practices that are in it. So.
I'm so glad you said that about business, because when I talk about this, I usually say there's 4 legs of this. You've got your uninsured, which is obviously what we've been talking about, and you've got I call it the do the math patient, who may be losing money on their plan. So I do this little calculation. You're paying average person pays around $40, let's say, a month for their dental. You add that up, it's with a deductible, that's like $500. What are you getting back? If you come in for 2 visits a year, what are you getting back? maybe $250. What happened to that other $250? It went to the insurance company. So you start talking to them like, do you want to be in control of this money that you're paying every month? What if you were in total control of that? And so we want to convince them not to sign up. But then area businesses, yes, you're exactly right. Going in and speaking, and like you mentioned earlier, there are a lot of professionals who don't have a dental plan who can afford dentistry. And maybe they are paying full price now and would love something like this. So I think we miss some opportunity. I think also some patients want to save up. How many times have we heard, I can't do this treatment right now, I don't have the money? You hear that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Well, probably not in your practice. They all have money up there, right?
Yeah, Maine's known for that.
So we start them on a layaway. You want to start putting some money aside? Let's start putting some money aside now. And I think there's other avenues that we just haven't explored. And, the team has to kind of really get behind. And most people start with like their own patients and maybe do a soft launch or something with, I say if you're going to do a soft launch, start with your retired folks. Look at all your people in your database who are 65 and up or 60 and up or whatever, who may have retired, lost their benefits, and they're looking at AARP or some other kind of something like that, and it's terrible. So,
useless.
A monthly, spreading things out monthly for their budget is a big plus. So, yeah, I'm totally excited about it. I love what you're doing. And can you tell us a little bit about the fees and how it works logistically with DenVantage?
Well, the patient sets up a payment plan.
Okay.
And it's, again, the DenVantage system that's on the web allows the dental office to have up to 10 different plans. In other words, you might have a patient that comes in twice a year. They're just a pro fee patient, and they pay a fee that's appropriate for that. And then at the other end of the scale, you have a 4 times a year perio patient.
Uh-huh.
And the basis of the membership fee is the cost of those hygiene services. So we want the patient to come in for hygiene, no matter whether they're perio or a pro fee patient, and having their plan already set up so they don't pay anything when they come in the office. We want that visit free. And that's a key piece of managing the mindset of the patient. They can come in and not pay. They see it as free.
Yeah.
And we call the fee that they're paying a membership fee, which it is, but it's a membership fee that covers the cost of those services. So included also are necessary x-rays and exam, and we often will throw in fluoride. And so that as a member, they feel like they're getting, insider rates and, insider services for free, that sort of thing. So they choose the plan with our help usually that works for them, that covers what they really need to do. And their payment is the payment we strive for is it's monthly and it's automated.
Awesome.
And when they sign up, they're committing to a year, but at the end of the year, it just continues on unless they cancel it.
Oh, wonderful!
So we don't have to resell it. And the best of all is the one that signs up and does an automatic bank withdrawal from their account. And the reason I say that's the best of all is because the fees are lower. So, yeah. So anyway, they pay in. It's processed by DenVantage. The dental office will get a bulk payment plan at the end of each month and a list of all the patients that are on and the fees paid and all that stuff. And DenVantage takes a small sliver of each of those monthly payments to cover our costs and the cost of credit card processing and all that kind of stuff.
What is a small sliver, Ted?
It amounts to a little over 8% of the payment.
Okay.
And more than half of that is the fees you pay anyway for a credit card.
Yeah, right. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. The important thing about it, though, is when you think about it, we found that when in talking to dentists that they're applying that to all the fees that a patient pays for their dentistry, but it doesn't. It only applies to their membership. So DenVantage is the plan that the patient has. It covers all of their hygiene services.
Yeah. When
they go on to restorative, that's a completely in-house transaction that we're not a part of.
Yeah.
But as a plan member, the dental office is that's a plan member will have stated benefits to the patient who's a DenVantage patient, which are the discounts off of services, and we would have a list of common services that would be on their webpage that's part of the DenVantage website. So each dental office has its own page and their own set of benefits. But those fees are paid by the patient directly to the office. DenVantage has no part of them.
Right, yeah. That makes
so
sense.
The actual cost to the patient or to the office, if you see it that way, for the year is somewhere in the range of $30 or so. When you add up all the little slivers, it might amount to $30 over the year. And those patients are spending, an average of a couple $1,000s in the practice. So it's a minimal amount.
Yeah, exactly. I know the first year I had a doctor do it. He said we added $60,000 to our production because of this. He tracked it, So
yeah,
that was
I tracked it, and it wasn't the first year. It was when we were into it, probably at around the 250 patient mark. It added. I think it was over $200,000.
Wow!
And the way it did it. That's a hard number to believe, I know. But the way it did it was, and I don't know if people realize this, but what we looked at finally, it took us a while to think of comparing our DenVantage patients to our insured patients to our uninsured non-DenVantage patients in terms of how much dentistry did they complete when they became a new patient in their first 6 months. And what we found out was that the DenVantage patients were spending 3 to 4 times as much in their first 6 months.
Wow.
3 to 4 times as much as the insured patients. And the uninsured non-DenVantage patients were about even with the insured patient. So that's an amazing thing. I had to double check it when we first found that out, and then we tried different 6-month periods, and the other practices tried them. So we're in a range of 2.5 to 4 times in all those comparisons. So what
that's awesome, Ted. That's amazing, and that's what doctors want to hear. That's what doctors want to see. It is transformational. It really does make a difference.
Yeah.
And so. Are you marketing? Do you have some marketing that DenVantage is doing, or does the practice do the marketing? How does that work?
Right now, the practices are doing it. DenVantage doesn't have a marketing budget to go national.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But we're supplying right now minimal marketing like brochures and that sort of thing, and we're working on media marketing that we would supply to member offices.
Oh, good. Okay.
That's actually the grumpy dentist's kind of our toe in the water there. Although those videos are mostly right now aimed at dentists more than at patients.
Right. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So, Ted, give us some contact information. So the website is DenVantage.com, right?
DenVantage.com, just like it sounds.
Okay.
And on the website, there's a phone number.
Okay.
And if you call the phone number, you'll talk to a live person.
Yeah.
It'll either be Meg or DJ.
Okay.
And
I've talked to them both, and they're wonderful people. Very helpful.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're getting this off the ground and hoping that we get lots of dentists on board to see it as a movement to reverse the trend towards takeover of dentistry by insurance companies and corporate dentistry. So that's what we're doing.
Well, you know what? It's a great thing. It's a great service. Some practices really need the support of the mastermind and someone else that's taking care of that for them, all the logistics and the details, the credit card numbers. A lot of people are very cautious about credit card numbers, and rightly so.
Well, it's something that is deceptively simple. It seems like, it'd be real easy to do it on your own, and we've done that, and we know that it's a lot more complicated than it looks. Yeah, and
can be, especially when you get hundreds, like you said.
It's such a great thing. I hate to see people do it and do it wrong and fail at it.
Right. And then, the team just has to really, like you said, once the team got it, they began to promote it, and the verbal skills of how you work with the patients and, get them to understand what you're doing. It really is a win-win. I've seen it over the last 7 years as a win-win. I think there's just a lot of untapped potential, like what you're saying here. So if you feel like you need some support, please reach out to DenVantage.com and ask for Meg or DJ, and they'll take good care of you and answer your questions.
Yep.
So, Ted, thank you so much for sharing. And some of you know Dr. Ted Morgan and Dr. Dave Peer and Dr. Kevin Devine and Dr. Dan Stanky. And is that the four of you? It's the four of you, right?
It is the four of us, yes.
Yeah. So, all just wonderful dentists, and I have admired all of you for years and years and count you as my friends. So thank you for what you're doing for dentistry and continue to do for dentistry. And
thank you too, Paula, for all you do. And
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's DenVantage.com, and if you need more information, feel free to contact me, and it's paulaharriscoaching.com, and it's 2 R's and 2 S's in Harris.
And if you want to contact me directly,
great. Okay.
I'd be happy to take your emails at tedmorgandds@gmail.com.
All right, great. That's wonderful. Thanks, Ted, for being available. I appreciate that. So.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Well, have a great weekend, and thank you again, Ted, for joining us. I really appreciate it.